The International Network of Algerian Scientists, INAS, is a nonprofit organization founded in 2016 by Algerian academics and professionals residing in the USA. The motivation is to pay back the homeland and help elevate the level of education in Algeria. INAS's mission is to network Algerian competencies worldwide with counterparts in Algeria. Among its activities, INAS has organized a significant conference that took place outside of Washington, D.C., USA in 2019. The conferees identified several need areas in Algeria and agreed to work on 10 different projects covering areas ranging from education, healthcare, to agriculture and ecotourism, to name a few. The work is ongoing and progressing. INAS is adopting the most contemporary and proven scientific methods to address these issues. INAS's humble beginnings included a few members. Today, it accounts for hundreds of able Algerians from the world over. Their goal is to participate in the rebuilding process of our new Algeria. These able and proud Algerians combine diversity and expertise with benevolence to set a path for a bright future in Algeria. INAS uses a top technology platform to allow members to collaborate and exchange knowledge. As an organization, INAS has different departments that ensure professional support to all its members, projects, and events. We welcome all Algerian competencies worldwide to join us in our noble mission. Algeria is bigger than all of us. Let's stand up and be counted today.
All right, good morning, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us in another event for the project Earthquake Hazard Mitigation of the Association INAS International Network of Algerian Scientists. This month, we are very pleased and honored to have one of the most prominent Algerian seismologists and geophysicists with us to share the experience of El Asnam 1980 earthquake and the Boumerdes 2003 earthquake, Dr. and Professor Mustapha Meghraoui. Dr. and Professor Mustapha Meghraoui, thank you very much, and good morning from your side of the globe.
No, we are afternoon.
Oh, sorry, afternoon. Good afternoon. So without further ado, I will quickly introduce our keynote speaker today. Professor Mustapha Meghraoui had a PhD in 1988 at University of Paris. He is a senior research scientist, physicien premier class of the EOST Université de Strasbourg in France. He is also a member of active deformation team at the Institut Terre et Environnement de Strasbourg, and develops program in the study of earthquake faulting, seismotectonic, paleoseismology, paleotsunami, and geological hazard. He played a significant role at the identification of earthquake faulting in the interplate and interplate tectonic domains, and also teaching active tectonics and paleoseismology, and supervised more than 15 PhD theses. So Professor Meghraoui also is he's elected as a president of the African Seismological Commission and the freeman of the city of Chelef, ex-El Asnam in Algeria, who suffered a big earthquake back then. He also honored medalist of Aristotle University in Greece, merit medalist of the Italian Ministry of the Interior, and honor medalist of the Turkish Geological Society. He is a founding member of the Algerian Academy of Science and Technology and author and co-authors of more than 99 peer-reviewed scientific publications. And we are very honored to have you today, Professor, and to share with us the most important lesson learned and from the experiencing the El Asnam and the Boumerdes earthquakes. Professor Meghraoui, please, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you very much. Thanks to INAS and to your invitation. So the topic I have chosen is dealing with two large earthquakes that affected northern Algeria, one in 1980, the El Asnam earthquake, and the second is the Boumerdes Zamouri earthquake in 2003. I'd like to show you and go along with a number of examples and observations, field observations, and also some modeling. The picture that you see is the picture that was taken 2 days after the 1980 earthquake, and you see the railway deformed, and on the horizon here you see that there is an escarpment measured by geodesists of more than 6 meters of uplift. So I'm going to tell more about this, and So the outline here is I would like to begin with the geodynamics and earthquake geology. How do we understand earthquake? Then I will continue with the description of the two earthquakes. I would like also to come back to some of the explanation that we can do on the modeling of active faults and folding, and also with the stress transfer or interaction between faults. And I will finish with the seismic hazard implications for northern Algeria, of course. Earthquake damage. We know that the earthquake damage worldwide was responsible of more than 1 million victims in the last 2 years, and also several millions of homeless. And this situation let us think about forecast or provision to reduce the risk in our countries, and to look after some plans for reducing this risk. Among these plans, I mean, the study of earthquake geology and seismology is very important, of course. In terms of losses, for instance, you see here, this is a table for North Africa, but I just pinpointed here the El Asnam, that with a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, more than 5,000 victims, and 2 billion of losses. The second earthquake, Zamuri, in 2003, it's a 6.8 magnitude earthquake, but it's very close to a large city and very close to Algiers, actually, the capital. There was about 2,200 victims, and the losses more than 5 billion. So the explanation here is for these losses is the fact that the northern Algeria and the Tel Atlas here in the north is along the plate boundary between Africa and Eurasia. So you see here most of the seismicity is along this plate boundary from the Gloria here transform fault, going across northern Morocco, northern Algeria, and northern Tunisia, and joining Sicily and Calabria. So these earthquakes here are quite frequent along the northern part of Algeria, and the interest is quite let's say important for the seismic hazard. We do not forget that to the south here in the South Atlas Setter zone, there are also some earthquakes, and the most prominent one is the Agadir earthquake here, who was responsible also about 5,000 victims. The Agadir earthquake was of magnitude, moderate magnitude 5.9, but we're coming back. We will come back to the moderate earthquakes in these regions. Now, how do we understand the earthquake ruptures and in seismology and earthquake geology? We know that the earthquake deformation begins with a pre-earthquake movement that we do not feel, but we can measure with geodesy. You see here, for instance, it's like you have a ruler. You will fold the ruler at one time. You will break the ruler, and the break is the earthquake, where the seismic energy will be released, and what it is left at the surface is a displacement. So displacement is often visible in the field, not always visible actually when the rupture is blind, what we call it in blind, so it's hidden in the subsurface, at the subsurface. But most of the time, when it is an earthquake larger than 6.5, we can see the displacement. So in terms of modeling, for instance, you see here there is a kind of a surface of earthquake deformation, earthquake rupture, where the arrows are the rupture, the movement and the displacement. You see this is a model where the largest displacement are at the center, and the smallest displacement are in the periphery. And this is what we call the expression of the seismic moment, which is an integration of all the displacement and per surface unit, and with the rigidity modulus, which is new. This can be modeled in terms of just a rectangle here, where we have the length, the width of the rupture, and the average displacement, and this is also give us the seismic moment. Now we, as the seismologists, we understand that the earthquake rupture is a double movement here, which can be also understood as a seismic moment, as a moment here of a force by a distance. So this is an illustration of the focal mechanism, if you want, at the seismic source. Here, the expression of the seismic source and the displacement, which is this expression given by Aki and Richards. What is interesting for us, three terms here, three main terms. What is interesting for us is the energy and the source function here, with the seismic moment, as a function of time, and with the final time and origin time here are on alpha. And these authors here, and also Steiner Y session, they expressed the dislocation, seismic dislocation, and seismic rupture in terms of a fault, of an active fault that can be studied in the field, and we can then collect the data from the field and study each earthquake, either a recent earthquake or earthquake in the past. At depth, we know that the rupture properties are linked with the elastic brittle section of the lithosphere, and it is the first 10 to 20 kilometer for the superficial earthquakes. Further depth, we enter the ductile section here with a large pressure and large temperature, and then when we go even further depth, we are reaching the lower lithosphere and the upper mantle, and where we have a viscous flow. And we see here that we have the increase in the stress until a maximum, and then after everything is constant in the ductile section, and then after, when we reach the viscous flow, the stress distribution go to zero. Where we see this, how this is understood in terms of rupture. So in the seismogenic zone, what we call seismogenic layer, which is about 10 to 20 kilometer, and immediately below we have the brittle ductile transition and the ductile flow. So the ductile flow, the ductile deformation, so has a continuous deformation, while everything here in the elastic brittle zone is with rupture. So the rupture goes here and expresses the earthquake deformation. So the brittle system depends on the stress distribution, and the ductile system depends on the temperature. The first, let's say, understanding of the earthquake cycle and the earthquake for the earthquake forecast goes from the elastic rebound and immediately after the San Francisco earthquake, where the ride he measured the earthquake deformation, the pre-earthquake deformation, and then he measured the co-seismic and even the post-seismic, and then he understood that the process of the earthquake deformation has several steps. So what we call the interseismic, so the period between two major earthquake. Then this includes a pre-seismic deformation, then co-seismic deformation, which goes from seconds to minutes, and this is the main earthquake with a larger displacement, and also post-seismic, which goes from months to years. So this is in relation with the seismic moment, of course. And here I give another relation that makes the correlation between the long-term deformation here, which is u dot infinite, minus the U dot, which is the coseismic deformation. So this is the main relation that links the regional deformation with the earthquake rupture. Now, if we go back to North Africa and the Maghreb region, where you see here the limit between the two plates, the Africa and Eurasia plate, Iberia, Eurasia plate here. You see it's coming from Gloria transform fault from the Atlantic. It goes here through Gibraltar. It goes into northern Morocco and northern Algeria, and then you see here that these large right lateral shear zones, they are at depth. They are not visible here in the northwest of Algeria, only visible through the Oneshlan folding, and one of them is the El Asnam folding. And here you see these large strike slip, lateral strike slip, visible in eastern Algeria and in Tunisia, that are separating here the different structural, different geological structure and tectonic structures. When looking at the shortening here rate, using paleoseismology and also working on the active faulting, we could resolve a shortening rate of 2.2 millimeter per year, just from the tectonic and from the geology. Now, recently, there has been some GPS measurements, and these GPS measurements, they are consistent with the first of all with the plate circuit here modeling that has been done in the 80s, where we have here 5 millimeter, 6 millimeter per year of convergence between Africa and Eurasia, and confirmed by the rate of convergence and also the obliquity of the convergence in the Maghreb region. So the rate here, and they show everything between 6 millimeter and 1-2 millimeter per year. So this is the engine, if you want, if you want, yes, governing the seismicity and the earthquake generation in northern Algeria. Now, if you see a detail here in the north central Algeria, we recognize here the El Asnam fault and responsible of 1980 earthquake, and also here. So this is the blue mechanism 7.3 ms, and here in the red mechanism the 2003 Boumerdes earthquake. And you see here that the fault is offshore, not directly visible. It is offshore and just a few kilometers from the coastline. And these two earthquakes are the two major earthquakes in northern Algeria, and then they were responsible of damage, extensive damage, and losses, as I have shown previously. The other earthquake are moderate earthquake, and we will see at the end how could be the contribution of moderate earthquakes in this area. So if I continue, begin with the El Asnam earthquake description. It is an MW 7.1. MW means that this is from the physical dimension of the faulting and also the displacement, as I have shown previously. The length of the fault is about 36 kilometers. The depth, the width of the earthquake rupture is about 12 kilometers. The hypocenter is between 8 and 9 kilometers. And the average displacement is 2.5. And the faulting was thrust mechanism with three main fault segments. So this is what we have observed in the field, but also given by the seismology. You see here the damage, and as I said, there was maybe more than 5,000 victims, and the city of El Asnam at that time, now it is a Schlep city, so the name has been changed. So the El Asnam at that time was severely shaken with a large damage, and you see here in these two examples how much the buildings suffered of the earthquake. Now in the field, we could see really impressive surface faulting. You see here how the land has been uplifted and displaced. You see here about 0.5 meter of displacement. Here also the same. Here about 2 to 3 meter of displacement. And here this is a trench that shows the thrust fault at the subsurface. So this was among the best, the most impressive surface faulting related with the thrust fault worldwide. And the earthquake actually was related with the folding, and even the fold was active, and also with flexural faulting, slip faulting. So flexural slip faulting, for instance, here in this picture here, you see a very vertical faulting visible at the surface, and this is vertical just simply because the fault uses the vertical bedding of the geological structure, and it is at the northeast of the earthquake area. You see here the arrow shows the limits of the surface faulting. The central part here, we see that there is a really clear lineament that shows the fault. And if we look at this Landsat image was taken in 1977, it means about 3 years before the earthquake. So it means that the fault was very well visible at that time, and even the folding here that we can see in this area. So 3 segments: segment A, B, C, and also the folding here in the middle. So this active folding, it was a discovery actually at that time, and many other regions took advantage of these observations to reconsider the seismic hazard assessment, especially in the Los Angeles basin, for instance. Here is the mapping of the fault zone, and I'll show also in the upper left the geodesy, and here you can see the measured point, and with the delta in yellow showing about 6 meters of vertical displacement. And this is also another modeling. There's 2 other modelings parallel to the main region where the maximum uplift took place. You see here these 36 kilometers of surface faulting, and you see also the complexity of this surface faulting is not only not a straight line, but it's a number of structures, subsurface faulting, with many secondary faulting on the uplifted compartment. And the fault is northeast southwest, with the northwest compartment uplifted and the southeast compartment downthrown. In parallel, you see here, because of this river, the Shelif River was crossing the fold and making a gorge. You have a flood zone here, just next to the faulting. The maximum displacement is around here in this area here, almost in the middle of the surface faulting. So the seismicity that existed, that was what recorded at that time with the local network, shows clearly the interaction. Let's say our seismicity is consistent with the surface faulting, and you see that the maximum seismic events are in the northwest compartment, and rather to the northeast, with the migration of the seismicity from the southwest to the northeast. Now, the folding is one of the main observations that we have been looking, and this is a recent work in the frame of the PhD thesis of Bagdi Isad, and of Mrs. Bagdi Isad, and who she did the new kinematic and elastic modeling of fault-related faults with the case study of the El Asnam earthquake. You see here the folding, and with a topographic offset of about 150 meter, and the fault is at the the foot at the foot of this of this topography. Here we have a high resolution image taken from the Pleiad images, and the high resolution means 1 meter resolution. And you see here very clearly the faulting. You see here all the triangular facets, and the gorge here, and also the limit between the flat basin here, sedimentary basin, and also the topography here. So the fault is very well visible here if we increase the resolution, and also the folding. The folding is also very well visible. So thanks to this, it was possible to do some modeling in the of the folding, and also either kinematic or elastic methodology. Now there has been also recently some multi-temporal INSAR in the region, looking at ERS images from 1995 to 2000, and also NVSAT images from 2003 to 2010. And in both cases, ERS and also NVSAT images, we could see some pixels here with the uplift deformation, with a significant uplift here that reaches 1 to 2 millimeter per year of vertical deformation. So in terms of cumulative displacement here, you could see in this diagram the rate of active deformation here from ERS images, so about 1 millimeter per year. And we see that recently, using the Sentinel data, there is an increase in this uplift to 2.3, 2.4 millimeter per year. So this is the results, recent results from my PhD student Miludi, who is preparing a PhD in our institute. And so what we can say about this? We can say that the active deformation didn't stop after the 1980 earthquake. On the contrary, the active deformation continued. There had been also some geodesy done in this area here, and that shows until 1995, for instance, there has been also an activity in this an activity in terms of deformation in this region, but also in terms of seismicity. So it means that the El Asnan fault didn't stop its activity, and now, thanks to the INSAR and multi-temporal INSAR, we can see that this movement is going on, and so we better continue to study the region. And so now I'd like to move to the second earthquake, the Boumerdes earthquake of 21 May 2003. This earthquake was MW6.8. The fault length is about 50 kilometers. The hypocenter is about 7-kilometer depth. And then it is also a stress fault, a coastal stress fault. You see in the background image a severe damage east of Algiers, and you see some buildings are completely fallen down. Has completely fallen down, and even in these buildings that looks like standing up, all the first floor disappeared. So it was sheared and disappeared in this region. So large damage, and as I said, about 2,300 victims, more than 2,300 victims during this earthquake. The major observation that has been made right after the earthquake is a coastal uplift over 60 kilometers of coastline. We could not see the fault because the fault was offshore, but we could see that the coastline showed about more than 0.5 meter of uplift. So this is what I'm going to show you. Previously, I would like to show this very detailed work and nice work done by our colleague Harvey. And I would like to pay a tribute to Asia, who left us in the last July. Asia was a very, very close friend and a very good seismologist, and unfortunately we lost her in last July. So this presentation is dedicated to Asia, and so this in this work, what she did with her team is a detailed investigation on all the damaged buildings in the area of the earthquake area here in Boumerdes, Zamuri, so very close to Algiers actually. And you see here the isoseismos and the curves and the number of cities and villages investigated all around the region. So this is really detailed investigation of microseismic distribution of the Zamuri Boumerdes earthquake done by Asia. The earthquake area was experienced a long period of aftershocks, I think more than 6 months. And you see in this picture here that the epicenter actually was at the beginning offshore, but it was relocated along the coastline. So the group of Abdel Hakim Ayadi and others, they did the job quite nicely, and they relocated the earthquake right on the coastline, and also calculated all these focal mechanisms in black. The one in pink here is from the CMT Harvey, and you see here the distribution of the seismicity. We could see that the southwestern part of the earthquake area has a strong earthquake activity, while with earthquakes larger than 3, and while the northeastern part here has less earthquakes. When we see now the structure at depth of the earthquake rupture, we could infer that the fault is about 10 kilometers offshore the coastline, and this is given by the cross section of the aftershocks, but also after the modeling of the coastal uplift. And this is what I'm going to show here. You see all these aftershocks here, and also, excuse me, the INSAR, and also the aftershocks, the INSAR, and also the coastal uplift. And you see here the aftershock distribution along the coastline, and the fault geometry that we could infer from the INSAR. The curves that you see here are the curves taken from the INSAR, from the interferogram. And so you see this with this configuration, we could not have the fault away from the coastline for more than 10 or 15 kilometers. And these are the two papers that has been published for this fault geometry. The measurements along the coastline has been done using tape, DGPS, and conventional leveling as well. And you see how many points here there are. Each point has several measurements actually, and there has been also a geodetic leveling inland here, following a railway line here first, and then after following other points, geodetic points along the coastline. So what we observe, as I said, is a coastal uplift of an average 0.5 meter uplift along the coastline. You see here that the coastline moved from this area here to this new area here. So all this region here was uplifted, and what you see in white is the algae burned by the sun, and this photo taken about 1 week after the earthquake. This algae burned by the sun, become white. And this color here was typical of the showing us the extent of the uplift in this area. And then we could measure this uplift along the coastline, and you see that it may reaches a maximum of more than 0.8 meter, and so as I said, with an average of 0.5 along that. There has been a maximum and also a minimum here, and then we have measured all these uplift, and compare it also with the geodetic measurements, of course. Here is, for instance, a very nice photograph taken by a colleague, Yusuf Bouhaddad, who shows the maximum uplift here in the rocks in head along the coastline, head rocks, and you see here the white algae that shows the previous sea level, if you will. And thanks to these observations, so we could monitor all the uplift along the coastline. Now we using the leveling and the uplift taken by the leveling, also by the observed coastal uplift. So the leveling in pink, the coastal uplift in red, and compared with the model, and this is only a forward model. Using the forward model, so we could manage and model the earthquake rupture, and have a dislocation model consistent with the earthquake magnitude. For example, here the dislocation model give us 6.9 magnitude, while the international stations and the studies, the seismological studies, gave us 6.8 and 6.9 as well for the 21 May 2003 earthquake with the thrust focal mechanism. You see here that the modeling is quite consistent with the measurements. You see there's a very good consistency between the blue arrows who represented the model, and the red and the pink arrows who represent the observations. Now, another work has been done by my student Ezra Chetin here, who did a PhD thesis, and on the post-seismic deformation, since we had using the PS-INSAR and using mainly the NVSAT images from 2003 2010. And what we observed here, the observation are in black arrow, and the model is on red arrow. What we observed first that if you see here the blue dots here, clearly the post-seismic deformation for after the Zamuri earthquake, and in green here we have the coseismic. So what we observe here is that the coseismic is here with the green, and the postseismic is with the red here, and there's an inversion of the movement between the coseismic and the postseismic, meaning that it's like postseismic is a relaxation of has been contributing to the relaxation of the coseismic movement, with subsidence instead of uplift during the subsidence during the postseismic instead of uplift during the coseismic. So this is an interesting observation that what we observe also is that the postseismic movement reaches 20 to 25% in terms of seismic energy with regard to the main earthquake. So this was also a new observation that we could take advantage to understand also the earthquake recurrence and also the earthquake release in terms of seismic energy. Here you have the scale of the loss change, line of sight change for the PS-INSAR, and you see that there has been two maximum here for the subsidence that I've been describing here, These are exactly the same place where we had two maximum for the postseismic deformation. So it is inverted here. Instead of uplift, we have subsidence. So this is what interesting results from this earthquake, actually. Now, make a little stop here on the this is coming from the mythology of the in North Africa and northern Algeria, where we think that this bull is holding the planet, and there is an earthquake when the planet goes from one horn to the other. This is what the mythology says in the and we call it Zilzal al-Fird, which if you go to North Africa and talk to people, so this is how they understand the occurrence of the earthquake. So it was an interesting observation on this mythology in North Africa. And this is a good passage to now I'm going to another type of presentation on the long-term deformation and also the origin of earthquakes in northern Algeria, linked so with the earthquake of Zamuri and earthquake of Asnam, with some of the modeling in this area. I will begin here with a work done with my colleague and ex-student Said Maush, where we studied the active coastal thrusting and folding with uplift rate of the Sahel anticline and Zamuri earthquake area. The Sahel anticline is an anticline, an active folding, an active anticline, which is immediately west of Algiers, and it is a major concern in terms of seismic hazard assessment and seismic risk. Going back to the uplift here, so the coastal uplift, coastal thrusting, you see here this white band all along the coastline that shows the repeated uplift, the uplift, and then we will see also that this uplift is repeated. Here is the trace of the previous level, sea level, and we have here a platform which looks like a previous platform linked with the past uplift. And so we see this all along the coastline at different levels. I'm not showing them all of them here, but we see this with the different uplifts, and showing that there has been some past earthquake in this area, and meaning that these observations can lead us to the recurrence interval of earthquakes in this along the Algerian coastline. When we study this in detail, so this is in yellow here, this is the earthquake area of Zamuri, but we have here to the west another earthquake that took place. It's a moderate earthquake, magnitude 6, that took place in 1989. This is the Tipaza earthquake here, the Chenois Tipaza earthquake. And what we observed that in between these two main major earthquakes, there is this Sahel anticline with a thrust fault that we observed already during this earthquake here in 1989, and then there has been here some moderate earthquakes with magnitude MWs 5 to 6. So this is we consider this as an important source of earthquakes, major earthquakes in the future. When you see here the details of the geology, we see that there are some marine terraces uplifted, which shows that this anticline here experienced different uplifts, and also it is active. And if you see the cross section here, you see that the folding here is related with the thrust fault and also with the normal faulting, something very comparable to what happened for the El Asnam earthquake. And this is part of the work by Souila Bagdi-Saad for her PhD thesis. So I'm going to show you some examples of her work, and this is a detailed morphology taken from Pleiad images. You see how detailed we could see the marine terraces here uplifted. You see them here again. These marine terraces, and among them the sea level E5 that is uplifted more than 150 meters over the anticline. You see here a detail also of a gorge taken also from Pleiad images, and you see the trace of the faulting here with triangular facets, very nice, and also here the gorge crossing the folding, the anticline, with the marine terraces here in red arrows, and so this gorge and this situation of the folding looks very much like the El Asnam area. So it can be an analog to the El Asnam. And when we do the modeling here for elastic modeling, for example, using the Okada methods of dislocation, we could see here clearly that the deformation that we could have here with the fourth parameters of the El Asnam earthquake lead us to some surface deformation that is typical of the thrust related folding with an average of 2 meters of displacement here. This is so the displacement observed, and this is the strain distribution for the El Asnam. The same thing we have done for the Sahel region, for the Sahel anticline, so the Sahel immediately west of Algiers, and we could see something very, very comparable to what we have been observing for the El Asnam. There are also other active folding that we studied and presented by Suhila for her PhD thesis, and this is well described in the thesis, and there's a paper in preparation. Now, when we see the surface deformation here between here the El Asnam, and this is very comparable to what has been observed during the El Asnam earthquake, and this is the scenario that we could do for the Sahel earthquake with an earthquake of magnitude 7.1, for instance, and with the dislocation model, and we could see here that the distribution of surface deformation looks very consistent with what we observe from the marine terraces and also from the distribution of the displacement along the coastline here. Here for the El Asnam, for instance, also, I mean, the displacement that we could see at the surface here is very comparable with what has been observed during the 1980 earthquake. Now, I don't have much time to describe all these modelings, but there are other type of modeling and kinematic modeling done using the tree shear method of Allmendinger, and Suhila, she did very nice work on the fault propagation and on a fault propagation fold, and the correlation between the kinematic modeling with the elastic modeling. So this has done in the frame of the PhD thesis of Suhila Bagdi Isa. Now, another type of modeling is the stress transfer and stress change, or the fault interaction. And this was the work of my ex-student, PhD student here, Jugor Takarish. Now he's not anymore a student, experienced researcher now, and what he did at that time is the modeling of the stress transfer from different earthquakes here, either moderate or large earthquakes. For example, in 1891 here, beginning from 1891 and moving to 1922, these are 6-point magnitude. Then to the 1954 6.7 earthquake, 1980 7.3, 1989 6-point magnitude earthquake, to the another small earthquake here, 5.2 7, I think. Here in this area here, Eindhoven earthquake, not far from Eindhoven actually, and the Zamuri earthquake in 2003. So what we could there's an off sequence earthquake here in 1910, which is also a large earthquake in the historical catalog in northern Algeria. What we observe here is that from 1891 to 2003, there is a kind of a fault interaction between the different regions here, the different earthquake areas, and with the migration of the seismicity from the west here to the east, and ending in the Sahel region here, in Sahel Mitija region in this in Iraq. So this concept of the strength change and fault interaction is very simple, quite simple concept, and it was developed by some colleagues, Jeff King and Rothstein, for instance, here during the 90s. And how do we understand this? We understand by two blocks here separated by the spring, and this is illustrated the elastic deformation. And you see here the parameters that are used, which is a normal stress and the shear stress here, tau, and that represented the total stress for in between these two masses. So if you move a mass, so this is the column strength calculation. If you move a mass, and you have these relationship here makes the stress change here, Coulomb failure function, which is also the stress change of the shear stress, the rigidity, the coefficient of friction here, which is in general 0.4 to 0.5, and here the delta sigma prime, which includes normal sigma, which includes the coefficient of Skempton here with the fault pressure in this area. So if you move the spring here and then you increase the shear stress, you will move the first block, and when you move the first block, the second block will move again. So this is quite a simple way of understanding the stress transfer and also the fault interaction. If we see this so in the field, and you see here, for example, the area of Algiers after the 2003 earthquake and also after the 1989 earthquake, you see that the region that is loaded is the region of the stress fault here, either from the southern part or from the northern part. From the northern part is more let's say important, because this is quite close to the Algiers as a capital, and this stress fault here that we have just seen along the Sahel anticline here is keen to generate an earthquake in the future, since the two end areas here and segments of this area here were reactivated in 1989 and 2003. So we are waiting that the central part be reactivated, and here you have the scale of the loading in terms of stress, and let's say a loading of 0.5 or even less than 0.5 bar is enough to trigger an earthquake. So this is what we see from the studies of stress transfer in general. This is part of the results in the Karish PhD thesis. More than this, I think the post-seismic stress transfer here in this area that I've seen from the Chetin and others' work, when computed, increases the loading on this area here. So the more you have of a post-seismic stress transfer, the more you increase the possibility of having an earthquake, either in the southern part here, on the Blida fault system and stress fault, or on this northern anticline, Sahel anticline. The issue here is that the Sahel anticline is quiet, and there is much of concern about the activity, the large earthquake activity along this anticline. If we do some of the forecast and modeling from the dislocation modeling, this is work published in Maush and others, and we could maybe figure out how this anticline here in the city of Algiers, how this anticline and this stress fault could generate an earthquake, and what size. For example, if we take only the westernmost segment, we could have a magnitude 7, taking into account this dislocation modeling, the Okada type, and then if we continue, we could have other earthquakes with 7.3 until 7.4. If the whole rupture is interested the whole area here, the 60 to 70 kilometer long thrust fault. So this is among, I think, the major seismic hazard in this area, in the area of Algiers. Now, other regions have been affected by earthquakes. For example, here, the second capital in Algiers, which is Oran here, and Oran has been experienced other earthquakes. One of them is a famous historical earthquake in 1790, when the city was occupied by the Spanish, and it was liberated in 1792, and the Spanish, they left after the earthquake, but now recently there has been an earthquake in 2008, and there has been other earthquakes in this area. You see here the thrust fault, same scenario with the thrust fault here next to the city, and another thrust fault here that may generate earthquakes in this area. So further studies are needed actually in this area. This is another earthquake in 2008 with a magnitude 4.9. You see here the different earthquake location actually, and we think that this IGN, which is a Spanish from the Spanish determination, is the closest to the if we compare with the local earthquake recorded more recently in this area. Another region here is the Béjaïa or ex-Bougie in northeast Algeria. Also another coastline here. And recently we had last March, 18 March 2021, a magnitude MW6 offshore, and this was also of concern because we know that some active faulting exists on inland, and the earthquake is a thrust fault, the same as the earthquakes near Oran. So this is also a thrust fault, and if this earthquake would have taken place more inland, there would have been serious damage in this area as well. So what do we know about the earthquake faulting in this area? Very little, actually, very little studies, not sufficiently studied. But I think it is worth looking at the earthquake faulting in this area. What we know that from the historical point of view, in 1856 there was an earthquake here, actually a sequence of earthquakes on 21 and 22 August, with a magnitude estimated at 7 due to the damage in the coastline here, and also to a tsunami. There has been a tsunami generated by this earthquake here that affected both the region and damaged the region of Algiers here, the city. This is a major city in northern Algeria, and also the city of Béjaïa. But Béjaïa is built on a hill, so didn't suffer much about the tsunami. But there is a sign in the harbor here that says that the wave reached to a 3.5 meter at that time. So these regions, they have to be taken into account in terms of seismic hazard, and what we see here on the top picture here, that there are many earthquakes here, not only in this northeast Algeria, northwest Algeria, in the north central Algeria, but even in the south here, along the southern Atlas, we have the Biskra earthquake here in 1869, right at the limit between the Atlas Mountains here and the Sahara platform. When we see how these earthquake faulting and earthquakes are taken into account in the paraseismic code, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed because, for example, I was mentioning about the region of Oran here and the earthquake of 1790, which the intensity reached 9 to 10. This region here is considered as a second class in terms of seismic hazard. Only the region here in the south, because experienced the El Asnam and the Zamuri earthquake, is considered as a maximum reddish zone, as a maximum with a maximum hazard, with maximum seismic hazard. The other regions, like Oran here, but also the Bajaya region that I just mentioned here in this area with the tsunami, are considered as a second class region. Why? It means that in this code, paraseismic code, the active faulting are not taken into account, and this is really unfortunate in this paraseismic code published in 2003. I don't know about the situation now. I know that my colleagues, they're trying to improve this, but for the moment, any construction done in this region, in the green regions here, is underestimates the seismic hazard. If I did some tests in taking into account the earthquake faulting, for instance, in northwestern Algeria here, this is the region of Oran and this is the region of El Asnam, and what I have been reaching is a PGA. We're just calculating a PGA of more than 0.6 G. So it's it shows that when taking in 50 years. So it means that if we take into account the faulting and the faulting parameters, we reach a significant level of seismic hazard. If I calculate for 100 years, I increase a little bit the peak ground acceleration. If I do it for 500 years, I even increase more and reach maybe 0.7 or 0.8 G in the earthquake. And I know that, for instance, that 2003 earthquake in Zamuri, Boumerdes, which is further east here, reached 0.6 G. So these calculations here are not irrealistic, and it shows that the paraseismic code has to be re-evaluated, re-estimated for northern Algeria in terms of seismic hazard assessment. I go back here to work that I did with my colleague Karim Audia, and then we try to simulate what would be the design ground acceleration for a scenario without fault source simulation and with fault source simulation. And you see here the difference is important. It's significant. In both cases here, for example, this is the El Asnam area, we reach 0.4, 0.6 G. But if we do site simulation, we know that many regions here, at least for the northwestern Algeria, and at that time, this is what we have known about the earthquake faulting, we reach 0.4, 0.6 G. So this is what we reached at that time, and I think this work has to be done again in this area. Now I'm going to the end. I will make conclusive remarks. What should we do? What is the way forward? I think we need to increase studies and project on active faulting and earthquake faults in northern Algeria. We need absolutely to make an effort and to study all the faults one by one, not only from the geomorphology and active tectonics point of view, but also from the paleoseismology. And I didn't mention much about the paleoseismology because of the time, but I think having results on paleoseismology is really decisive for the seismic hazard assessment. Another thing to do is to develop networks on active deformation, which is more GPS studies and more INSAR. There are actually some data at the Geophysical Center, and I'll be very glad if we could have access to these data and study the regional deformation one by one. I think I know that an effort has been done already, but I would like to have access to these data and do some more regional works. I think it is important for all the country, and also important for the seismic hazard assessment region by region. We need also to test some innovative approaches for the realistic seismic hazard and risk assessment. I know that there has been some work on the ground motion prediction equations because the Paraseismic Center in Algiers has a very nice network of strong motions. But here again, I mean, these data has to be shared and regional studies have to be done to have a realistic assessment of the seismic hazard and risk in northern Algeria, northern and southern actually, and to the Atlas, all across the Atlas Mountains. I would like also to see a program of earthquake early warning system for large cities, for example, like Algiers and Oran, because I think this is necessary, and because all the hazard is along the coast, and I think the local authorities would gain experience in having more information on earthquake forecast, and also for a provision of future earthquakes, and then having an early warning system is a way of maybe helping and reducing some risk in some regions. And finally, I would like to, as I traveled a lot in the Maghreb region, but also in Egypt and all in North Africa, I think these regions would also gain having an earthquake data and research center, such as we could have all the information and the records of past earthquake and also for future earthquakes, and have the resources shared between all countries. I think with this, these are my conclusive remarks. I didn't want to make it any longer. I'm ready to have any question. Just for the acknowledgement here, I would like to thank all my PhD students here. You have a long list here with Samir here. He's in UNO in Geneva, and UNOSAT, and Ersan, who is in Turkey. Said is in Algiers. Saifullah, who is in Algiers as well. Ezra, she's in Turkey. Jugurta, he's now in Algiers. Sohila is in Algiers, and Siham Biludi, she is in Strasbourg and also in Arzew in Algeria, and she's preparing her PhD. The funding institutions, I made a list here, and I would like to thank all these institutions that help it in the studies, and in particular the Ministry of Scientific Research, who funded most of the students here that are Algerian students, and this was really an effort that I appreciate very much. And also the North African group of earthquake and tsunami studies, led by Asia, by late Asia, that we regret very much, and I will not finish this presentation by mentioning, although he was not involved directly to the studies of seismic hazard in Algeria, is the Professor Muawiyah Barazanji, who just passed away, I think, about 1 week ago. And Muawiyah was a professor in Cornell University, and he was very supportive of our studies. And I would like to pay him a tribute also, although this was just a short time since he passed away. I hope that we would have the possibility to refer to his work in the very near future. and this is what I order. So I think general, but maybe in
Thank you very much, Professor
2026.
Meghraoui, for your very. Can you hear me? Hello. Yes. Can you hear me, Professor?
Oh yes, yes, yes. I hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Sorry,
Thank you,
I
Mohammed.
think it was muted. So
Yes, yes, I hear
thank
you.
you
I hope
again
I
very.
didn't take much of time. I think it.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. I mean, we had everything recorded in. So thank you again very much for your very insightful presentation and lecture. You started from the very basics, deformation theories, back to the El Asnam earthquake, and you covered the recent studies on both El Asnam as well as Boumerdes earthquake. So thank you again for your presentation. So I would like to ask our audience if they have any questions or comments. Feel free to ask your questions in the comment sections, whether you have are in Facebook, in LinkedIn, or in YouTube. We will pick few questions already asked here, and Professor Meghraoui is going to answer to some of them. Let me just see the questions here. We start with Ahmed Boras. He said, was there any seismic gap analysis to estimate the average earthquake cycles in North Africa, between brackets, fault activity, frequency, cyclicity after a few years?
Yes, thank you. This is a very difficult question. I tried to do what we call a seismic slip deficit, and comparing the new geodetic data from GPS with the seismicity rate of activity. And but the work is going on, and I didn't finish the work actually. I'd like that a student, if a student could do this analysis, I'll be very glad. But it is interesting to see that some of the region I cannot call them a gap, because we do not understand really how the earthquake deformation is taking place at depth. For example, in northeast Algeria, there is much less large earthquakes, as far as we know. There has been no paleoseismology studies in this area, and there should be. But we do not understand really how the lithosphere and the upper crust is deforming with earthquake. We do not understand yet. Although we have these earthquakes, we would like to have more studies on the cyclicity, for instance, as you said, not only from the earthquake catalog, but also from the geodesy and from the active tectonics.
Thank you very much for your answer, Professor. We'll take another question. Sorry for our English audience. This question is in French language from Bachir Ben Farhat. Bonjour, est-ce que ces études permettent d'estimer la durée des secousses générées par un séisme donné? Si oui, cela dépend de quoi, mis à part de la magnitude et la quantité d'énergie libérée? Merci.
Okay, since the question is in French, so I will answer in French.
Yeah.
Oui, il est possible d'avoir la durée des tremblements de terre, parce que la durée est proportionnelle à la longueur de la faille, en fait. Les longueurs des failles en Algérie du Nord, surtout dans l'Atlas télien, ne dépassent pas 50 km. Donc, si on compte, disons, 3, 4, 5 km secondes, on aura la durée donc, du tremblement de terre par région. Par exemple, là, pour le tremblement de terre de l'Asnam, c'est 36 km. Et 36 km, c'est, si on compte 3 km secondes, donc ça fait environ une trentaine de secondes, une quarantaine de secondes, pas plus, de durée de la rupture, propagation de la rupture, donc de durée du tremblement de terre. Ça ne dépasse pas une minute en tous les cas. C'est ce qu'on connaît jusqu'à maintenant sur l'occurrence des tremblements de terre et leur durée.
Merci, monsieur. Merci. Thank you very much. We will pick another question from the audience here. I think one of your students, Karish Jugurta. Thanks for the great presentation, Mustafa. Have you an idea about what parameter? Do you have any idea about the parameter? What parameter are used in the construction of the parametric code, maybe paraseismic code of Algeria?
Uh, this is a very good question, Jugurta, because we have discussion. I have discussion with my colleagues from the Paraseismic Center and with Yusuf Bouhaddad and also with Nasser Lawami. We agree that the paraseismic code is underestimated. This is very well taken. And what I don't know is I don't know why the Ministry of Buildings in the building constructions and they're not very keen to change the paraseismic code and take into account the active faulting activity, the faulting activity. Now to go back to your question is I don't know really what the present day paraseismic code in Algeria takes in how they take into account the earthquakes and the faulting. I know that they do statistical calculations like the Gutenberg-Richter calculations. I know that they include some of the knowledge about the faulting after the earthquakes. But in terms of seismic distribution, for instance, they put the red flag where the earthquakes already happened. Meaning, for example, a red flag for the Al Asnam region and the red flag for the Zamuri region. But we know that from the seismic cycle point of view, that the future earthquake will not take place neither in the Al Asnam region, neither in the Zamuri region. The future earthquake will take somewhere else, where the earthquakes didn't happen yet. So I don't know how they think about this. I have no information about that.
Thank you very much, Professor. Just for the reminder, we already invited the Professor Borhla Nordin Borhla last year, who introduced all the fundamentals of the RPA, Règlement Parasismique Algérien. So you can find the recording online if you're interested to learn more about this. Thank you. I will pick up another questions from Ahmed Hassan. Again, he said, are these earthquake size forecast model based on full D-scale 3D earthquake simulation of the Metija Basin? He's talking about the simulations you presented.
I didn't understand. 3D.
Yeah. Are these size forecast models based on full-scale 3D earthquake simulation? Maybe he means like a 3D fall modeling, like using finite difference method.
Yes, of course. I mean, when we do the dislocation model, we take into account the 3D. We take into account the deformation at the surface, as I have shown with those contour lines. But also, this dislocation model is based on the earthquake rupture at depth. This is what I have shown. Also, one of the slides. This was the work of Suhila Bagdi, PhD thesis, and we do take into account the let's say the coseismic displacement at depth for each of those faults, and then their dimension. Tell us about the level of magnitudes, for instance, and this is what we do. I'm not expert myself in seismic hazard assessment, so this is the work of my colleagues at the Paraseismic Center. But since we provide the data, the parameters and the data to our colleagues in seismic engineering, so we discuss and then we make sure that these data are well used. And this is why we are interested in the 3D distribution of the active deformation.
Thank you very much, Professor. So before closing the call, I will have one last question myself about the earthquake early warning system you mentioned. It is a very interesting topic. So I've been through some interesting videos recently discussing about open source earthquake early warning systems. So some small companies are starting offering some open source earthquake early warning systems with the low cost. So do you think Algeria is well equipped to start our open source earthquake early warning system, or do we have necessary seismograms or network to allow this kind of early warning systems in Algeria?
I think not yet, because my experience with early warning system comes from the region of Napoli in southern Italy. It's not very far from Algeria. And where my colleague, professor in seismology, Aldo Zolo, he has an early warning system from the Campania region, what they call the Campania region there near Napoli, relative to the 1981 earthquake, because they had a 6.9 NW earthquake in 1980 as well, in November 1980. So about 1 month after the Asnam earthquake. And they have now an early warning system experience since they installed the network. And I've seen their network. It's portable stations with continuous online record and where they monitor a fault, which the fault that generated in the 1980 earthquake, and they have this is a distance about 50 to 60 kilometers. So they have those let's say 10 seconds necessary to have an alarm. So in Algeria, I don't think we have a network like that one. We have a good network of well distributed across the country for seismic monitoring. This is okay. This is very good. But we don't have a specific network for the early warning system, and this has to be done. This has to be implemented and go for already an experience of early warning system. And my colleague in Italy, he proposed me several times that he could help in having this early warning system in Algeria for no cost at all, because he's a professor at Federico II University, and he's ready to help. He already came, I think 2 or 3 times in Algiers. Our colleagues know him quite well. I think this experience should be launched in Algeria. I agree.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Professor, for answering all our questions. So I will not hold you much longer. I mean,
it is my pleasure, Mohammed. It is my pleasure, and I would like to thank all the assistants, all the audience. I don't know how many people they attended my talk.
Yeah, currently in live we have around 35, but of course after the live it will increase, you know.
Yeah, it will record it. It is recorded, right?
Yes, it's recorded.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you
I'm very
much.
glad. I'm very glad. It's a very good experience. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our audience, we would like to remind you that the project of earthquake hazard mitigations aims to hold, monthly webinars where we are inviting experts from geology, geophysics, and building construction in order to share, and spread science within the community and within population in Algeria, but also increase earthquake hazard awareness. This is a background work we are trying to do by teaching people what we are doing to be safer and more resilient when earthquake occurs, because it's just a matter of time. It's already more than almost 20 years since the Boumerdes earthquakes, and all the generation who was born after the Boumerdes didn't really experience the trauma that we experienced. So we want them to be more ready and more seismic aware about what is going on earthquake researches. Again, thank you everyone for your participation, and looking forward to see you next month in another webinar. And Sahar Ramadankum, Sahaftarkum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.